Hey, what's up everybody, Retro Gaming Guy here. Today in this video we are going to demo and review the Retro Rager 500GB Batocera PC build. This actually uses Batocera 37 on it. It's got over 7,800 retro video games ready to go plug and play. So I'm going to install this into my gaming PC. We're going to boot it up and see what this has to offer. Let's dive into it. Alright everybody, here we are booted up into Retro Rager's Samsung branded 500GB SSD. This uses Batocera version 37, and you can see right here on the all games list, we're highlighting 7,809 games total on here. So first, before we start diving into some collections, and then we'll jump into some gameplay demos as well, just to test out the performance here. Before we do all of that, I want to kind of scroll through and see what this has to offer. So this is a favorites collection. It's not yet been set up. That is for the user to set up themselves. You can add all your favorite titles there just for easy access. Here we have Daphne. How many titles? 17 games for Daphne here, which is actually pretty standard for emulation, especially with Batocera, which I am very familiar with. We have 600 games for MAME. We have Atari 2600. Inside here, there's 627 titles. Atari 5200. There are 96 titles there. Atari 7800. 58 games inside 7800. And I like how each of these populates into some side bezels there. So once you're highlighting that collection, you get a full screen, or full frame rather, video preview of some of the titles. But on the sides, it tells you what collection you're in. So I like the way that that populates in. So Commodore 64, just one game in here. We'll continue on. Xbox here, this is original Xbox. And because this is a small capacity card, small as in 500 gigabytes, which really isn't that small, but it's small when you start talking about like terabyte SSDs and stuff like that. We only seem to have 2 games in here, so I'm going to actually jump into this collection. And it looks like we've got Halo 1 and 2 in here. And you can see we have the text list on the left, and again, just because there's 2 titles, we only have the 2 listed here. But we have a nice video preview there, and we actually do have audio for the video preview, and we also have background music throughout. I just muted everything just for the sake of this video, so I don't have to constantly find myself talking over everything. But we do get some good information here. So we're going to back out. Here we have PC Engine. How many titles here? 292 titles for PC Engine. That's awesome. Over here we have 36 titles. Over here, Super Graphics, what do we have? 5 games for Super Graphics. Nintendo Entertainment System. Love the graphic there. The sort of remixed version of Duck Hunt there with the graphics. 783 games for Nintendo Entertainment System. So that's pretty awesome. Let's actually dive into this collection. I guess we could dive into these as we go just to see how everything populates in. And they do differ ever so slightly, but you see we do get some side art there that stays on screen. We also have that text list. We have information and video previews for each of these titles. Looks like we get some box art there for each of these titles. So I really like the way that this all populates in very nicely. Seems like a well-polished list of games here. So we're going to back out. Game Boy over here. Usually there's like 500 titles for these. Yeah, 557. Pretty sweet there. Again, love the graphics on here. We're going to go over to Super Nintendo. 796 games for Super Nintendo. Got Luigi on the side. N64. How many titles here? 177 games. So that's a pretty good sized collection there for N64. You'll get all your favorites, I'm sure. Let's take a look at this because I'm a big N64 fan myself. So it kicks off with 007, The World Is Not Enough. Let's see down here. I'm a big Cruisin' fan, so do we have all? We do. We have all 3 Cruisin' games here. So we'll probably jump into one of these when we get into the demos. I love the graphics here, and these are not easy to emulate. So we'll get an idea of what the performance is like here as well. Of course, that's going to depend on what you are using to run this, of course, but Donkey Kong 64. So looks like a lot. This is my favorite game of all time. If you watch the channel, you've probably seen me talk about this quite a bit. Gauntlet Legends. Not crazy about this version, but still an awesome game. I like the Dreamcast version. Here we have Game Boy Color. What do we have here? 533. Nintendo GameCube. 93 games for GameCube. Gotta dive in here. Big GameCube fan. Got Crazy Taxi. I see that right off the bat. Some Crash games. What else do we have? 007 games. This is one of my favorites, from Russia with Love. All the Mario stuff. We'll probably jump into Double Dash. I love testing that out. A lot going on in that game. Metroid Prime 1 and 2.
NFL Street, NBA Street, awesome games. Pokemon titles. Can't go wrong with Pokemon, Resident Evil, Sonic, Soul Calibur, SSX Tricky. That was my first game for GameCube. I think my GameCube actually came with this game. Zelda, all the good stuff there. We got some Tony Hawk down at the bottom. Wario World, awesome stuff. All right, so we're going to back out of this collection. Game Boy Advance over here. What do we have for Game Boy Advance? We have 1,028 titles. That looks like some Metal Slug right there. Never played that version. That looks pretty sweet, though. I keep wanting to back out here. I'm used to my older version of Batocera, where you have to hit your A or B button, depending on what controller you're using, to back out. But we're actually just getting a peek into the collection with this theme, which is pretty cool. 252 titles for Nintendo DS. That's pretty cool. I'm not a big DS guy myself, especially with emulation, but awesome to have that there. Nintendo Wii, 47 games. I am a big Wii fan, so let's see what we got in here. I'm seeing Crash right there. Chicken Shoot's actually a pretty cool one. Big Buck Hunter Pro. If you get the Big Buck Hunter Wii Remote attachment, that could be a lot of fun. We got some Guitar Hero stuff, Kirby stuff. Of course, we got the Mario. We've got Pokemon Battle Revolution. Never played this title. I've heard good things, though. I got to jump into this one. House of the Dead. What else do we have? All the Wii Sports, all that good stuff. Wild West Shootout. Awesome title right there. All right, so we got some good stuff going on here. Western Heroes. This is probably my favorite shooting game for Nintendo Wii. So let's back out. Yes, we were in the collection. Still getting used to this theme, but I like this theme a lot. It's actually laid out really nicely. Open Bore. 62 titles for Open Bore. This is an awesome collection. Custom sort of beat-em-up style games on here. And do we have video previews here? Awesome. We don't usually get those, actually, on builds like this. Kill Bill Volume 1. Awesome game. I keep seeing Never Ending Story, and I've yet to check it out. It looks pretty interesting. All right, we're going to back out of this collection. We have ports over here. What do we have for ports? I'm not super familiar with these ports, but you guys may be familiar with them. I know Doom, of course, but we'll back out. Pie Game, that's something that comes, it's like a trivia game that comes on Batocera by default. Pretty cool, though. I have tested that out. We have Sega Master System, 277 games in here. Sega Mega Drive here. What do we have? 816. Let's just take a quick peek in here. See how these populate in. Love that graphic over there of Tails and Sonic on the side. So back out. We have Sega Game Gear over here with 259 games. Awesome. Model 3. I love Sega Model 3. I was a huge arcade fan growing up. Let's see. All right, so there's a couple duplicates in here with Scud Race. Some duplicates. Yeah, so a few duplicates here. I haven't seen duplicates actually anywhere else. Now, there are different versions, though, of these games, so they may not actually truly be, just duplicates like that. So I'm not mad at it for that. But I will note that there are, 5 or 6 Scud Races here. Everything else seems pretty clean. Virtual on 2, there's 2. These are different spike outs. Sega Bass Fishing, there's 2. But I remember that from when I actually set this up on my old setup a while back. I do remember having some duplicates, and they differed ever so slightly. So understandable there. Let's take a look at Sega Dreamcast. Probably one of my all-time favorite collections and all-time favorite consoles. 58 games. That's pretty good. Let's see what we've got in here. Oh, we've got my favorite game, Gauntlet Legends. And the reason I like this over the other versions is because the graphics here were the best. They were pretty much exactly the same as the arcade version, which is what I grew up playing. So we also have Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Doesn't get any more classic for Dreamcast than that. Power Stone 1 and 2, NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC. Used to love the arcade version of that. Used to be bundled with NFL Blitz, Silent Scope. I haven't played that in forever. That's such a cool game. And all the sequels. We've got Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, Soul Calibur here, Spider-Man, some Star Wars, some Street Fighter, some House of the Dead 2s on here. Awesome. Tony Hawk, yeah, Tomb Raider, Virtual Striker, Virtual Tennis, and, oh, there we go, WWF Royal Rumble. Really great game. And also for Sega Naomi, they have this title too. I don't know if it's on this build, but I remember playing it on there as well. And I actually probably prefer it on Naomi just because it's more, arcade style. So let's back out. Neo Geo System, we have 140 games. PlayStation 1, what do we have here? 105 games for PlayStation. Looks good. Do we have video previews? We do. All right. Well polished then. And all these Final Fantasies, they are multi-disc, I believe. So those aren't actually duplicates. I don't think. I'm not seeing duplicates anywhere else here. Metal Gear Solid. All right. So we will back out. Continue on. PS2. Here we go. Got to jump into PS2. Oh, 5 games. All right, so I understand why there's not a lot of PS2 titles, likely due to the smaller size. And I know from setting up builds myself in the past that PS2 games take up a good amount of space. So this entire build seems to be geared more towards the more classic retro collections. We don't have a whole lot for Xbox, don't have a whole lot for PS2. GameCube's pretty stacked, though. Wii's pretty stacked. Those don't take up a whole lot of space, though. These, PS2 and Xbox definitely take up more. What do we have in here, though? We have God of War 1 and 2. So I know those titles, you need to have pretty decent PC for the most part. And even so, you may still have to do some settings adjustments. Tekken Tag Tournament, awesome game. Love that game. The Matrix Path of Neo, for Matrix fans like myself, this game right here is 100% the best Matrix game out there. And maybe the new one's better. I'm not sure about that newer Matrix one. I saw videos on it. WWE SmackDown Here Comes the Pain. That's a good game. So yeah, pretty decent selection out of these 5 titles here. And you could always come in here and remove whatever you're not going to play and add your own if you wanted to, or remove some of those older collections. So this would make for a great starting point. Let's continue on. LCD games. So let's see what we've got. So this is going to be like your Game & Watch stuff. How many are in here? 52 games. All right, so for those that want some nostalgia, this could be a lot of fun. I haven't done much with these, but I've always, taken a look at them on here. I think that the video previews of them are pretty cool. I don't know if I'd actually enjoy jumping into games on here unless I had one of these growing up. Then going in for pure nostalgia would probably be pretty fun. All right, so let's back out of this, and I'm not in it. I keep forgetting that. Not used to this theme. Keep wanting to back out when I'm not actually in because it looks like it auto launches each of these collections for you. But here we are back at the all games list. Again, 7,809 games total on this 500 gigabyte SSD from Retro Rager. We're going to dive into some games, though. I want to test out the performance here, and I've yet to actually do anything on Batocera 37. Last time I used Batocera actively with anything was Batocera version 35. So I'm a little out of date here, but I want to check things out. So we're going to dive into a handful of titles. I'll make sure that I tell you guys exactly which game and collection it's from is on screen during this process of the video.
What the? Oh! Ow! Hey, sorry, man. $15.30. Game, set, and match. TV posted.
All right, guys, absolutely love what we have here from Retro Rager. And first and foremost, I want to say that this was done on a Samsung 500 gigabyte SSD, which I think is the highest quality brand that you can buy from for SSD products. A lot of times we see preloaded drives like this done on generic drives that are just prone to corruptions, and there's nothing worse than having all your games set up ready to go, or all of your saves for games that you've progressed through set up on a drive that corrupts. Once it corrupts, it's gone forever. So we don't have to worry about that here with Samsung because they are reliable. They also have the best performance, in my opinion. Back when I was doing builds of my own, I always tried to stick with Samsung products for those reasons. So let's talk about what this drive has to offer. It's got a ton of retro video games, over 7,800 retro video games ready to go. You don't have to go into your settings necessarily, make adjustments. If you're using a mid-grade PC or something that's not, of the highest level, you may have to go into your emulator settings, make some minor adjustments, but for the most part, everything is plug and play. You do have to install this SSD either into your PC or into a external USB enclosure, which then gets connected via USB connection to your PC. And then you just change your boot order on your PC and you're able to boot right up into this. Again, this uses now Batocera version 37, which is very new. This was actually my first time diving into Batocera 37. I haven't been super active with Batocera since Batocera 35, but awesome version of Batocera, very stable, very reliable, which is, of the most importance. So in terms of game collections, very stacked collections here, especially for your older collections. Now, the only shortcomings I see here would be original Xbox and PS2. There's also no Wii, no Wii U. There is Wii, and Wii is actually pretty stacked. But there's no Wii U, there's no Switch on here. Those are the only collections we seem to be missing on here from what I could tell. And that is likely due to this being a smaller capacity drive. 500 gigabytes is a large size, but not when compared to like 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 4 terabyte, and so on. These more advanced collections take up a lot of space for each title, so that's likely why we only have 2 Xbox games and just, I think it was, 5 PS2 games. So it gives you a little bit of a preview to what you could get into on those collections with Batocera 37, but they didn't spend a lot of time building those up, likely due to the fact that this is a smaller SSD capacity drive. So I think that this is great entry-level option for people that are just getting their feet wet with PC emulation gaming. For those that are looking more for like N64, Saturn, Nintendo Wii, GameCube, you're in luck because those collections are absolutely stacked here. you're going to get into a lot of great stuff, plug and play, ready to go with excellent performance. But if you're looking for, more of that original Xbox or PS2 or PS3 even, you're looking for those more advanced collections, then you likely want to pass on this just because there's not an abundance of those titles. But that doesn't mean you can't add more. You certainly could. You could also, remove some of the collections on here that you don't want to dive into. If you're not somebody that wants to dive into Dreamcast, you could remove Dreamcast, free up some space, but you're likely still going to want a larger capacity SSD in the end because a lot of those older collections really don't take up much space, like NES or Super Nintendo, for example. They don't take up much space at all. So if you wiped out those entire collections, realistically, you're only going to get a couple of those more advanced games added onto here in the space that you freed up. So take that into consideration here when deciding if this is the right drive for you. But in terms of what's offered here, it is high quality and reliability across the board. Big fan of what we see here from Retro Rager. I would highly recommend it if this, fits your needs. I'll put a link up here at the top of the screen as well as in the description of this video where you can get some additional information on this particular drive right here. So that's going to do it for today. If you enjoyed the content, please give me a thumbs up on the video. It's a huge help to me here on YouTube. And of course, hit subscribe to stay in the loop for all future videos right here on the Retro Gaming Guy YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.